Hi guys, welcome to the Collegepreneur Podcast, the podcast that interviews college student startups on their origin, current successes, and goals for the future. In today's episode, I spoke with Remi and Prianna Sharan, the co-founders of Popple. Popple aggregates in-person events and creates attendee groups for real-world connections. In today's episode, I discussed with Remi and Prianna how they addressed their problem of not knowing what to do on the weekends to now having a fully developed app with over 500 users. Enjoy the episode. Hello, Remi and Prianna. Thanks for coming on Collegepreneur today. How are you both doing?
I'm doing super good. Thank you for having us, Philip.
Yeah.
In agreement with her.
Awesome. Before we get into anything else today, could you please give me the elevator pitch for Popple?
Of course. So Popple is an app, find us on the App Store, that is a community building forum for college students. So we sort of combat the problem of A, not having people to do things with in a college environment, and B, not being able to find anything to do in the first place. So we aggregate a ton of different events ranging from, concerts to art exhibits to just like club meetings, and match people with similar interests to attend these events.
Awesome. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I'll just add that Remi and I kind of came up with this idea because we saw this issue where we felt like college students spend a lot of their times like on their dorms, on their phones, like not really getting out there and experiencing local events, mostly because they're a little bit scared of going to things alone. And it's like if your friends aren't going, it's like, I don't want to go, So we kind of built Popple to be that place that people can go to like find friends to do things with.
So building off of that, do either of you have like a personal background or experience that really inspired either of you to start this Popple journey and start the development of this concept and app?
Well, we actually met at a club fair freshman year.
Awesome.
So we met before we were co-founders. We were best friends. And I think that we were sort of talking about that experience our sophomore year and about how there were so many clubs and there's just so much to do, but it's finding them in one centralized place and then also finding people to go with and actually making connections at these clubs has become so difficult, especially post-COVID and things like that. I think that's one thing that we talked about. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, and I feel like the feasibility of it was something that inspired us a lot because I'm a business major. Prianna is computer science, and I was like, oh, we could actually do it, especially because Prianna was there. She created an entity, which is very impressive.
So was there an aha moment per se that really got Popple off the ground, or was it kind of something both in the back of your heads that had been brewing, or?
I'd say there was an aha moment, sort of. We were in the CDS, a building on BU's campus, and we were just lamenting about the issue of not being able to find anything to do. Because I think I was looking on my computer and I was just on a million different sites and I was just what, this should not be this difficult. So we just, I made a joke about being like Mark Zuckerberg and making a startup. And, ever since then we were okay, let's just do something that fixes that problem. So I think we took a week to brainstorm and then we Popple came to us in a vision. And it's there have been iterations, but it is Popple now.
Nice. So you have this initial aha moment. What were the first steps of getting Popple off the ground and starting the development of Popple?
So Popple actually started at kind of an interesting time, I feel because it was February of last year that we had the initial idea. And I feel across Boston, that's kind of competition season for startups. There's a lot of big competitions and, I don't know, applications and things that are opening for all of these awesome innovation programs across the different universities. So we came up with the idea and we were okay, here's a bunch of places where we want to pitch it and get feedback and get practice talking about it. So one of our first steps was actually coming up with kind of a business plan and coming up with a demo to show people. So I worked on the demo. Remi kind of worked on the business side of it. And our end goal was to create a cohesive pitch for the BU hospitality competition. BU has two flagship innovation competitions. One is put on by the School of Hospitality, and one is NBC, which everybody's heard of. I think those were the first steps.
What did it look like to develop the demo for Popple?
Yeah, so I made it in Figma, and it's a clickable demo. It's funny looking back on it because it Popple has changed so much,
right?
And the actual feel of the app is so different. But yeah, it was in Figma. I would recommend that to any startup that wants, or any mobile app startup that wants to create a demo super fast, because Figma's great and super easy, and you can make a really good looking one. And we used it for a lot of beta testing, actually.
Nice. Yeah. For like background context, you were both sophomores when you started this development. Okay, gotcha. And then, so you get to the pitch competition. What happens?
Well, there are a bunch of different rounds for the pitch competition. Okay. The one I remember, well, for the hospitality competition, this was our very first like actual pitch. The other one was like a little Build Lab thing. This was our big pitch. So we were so nervous. I'm going to shout myself out, especially me. So we walk into this like room with like a massive like, boardroom table and like these like scary judges like sitting around it. And yeah, we go up there, first pitch ever. So honestly, I completely froze up. I got so nervous. Thought we were screwed over. But we actually ended up making it into the next round, and I was like, oh my God, we got to get our act together. Like, we were practicing so much, like obsessing over this pitch. But I think that really was like what catapulted us to like put our all into this pitch. So we go into like the big hospitality competition, which is like a conference of sorts, and there are like around 200 people in the audience, and did the pitch, got second place, and got $15K. So Congrats. It all worked out in the end.
Nice. To bring it back to Build Lab for a second, because you'd mentioned that, could you explain, one, what Build Lab is, but then also kind of what were you doing there?
Definitely. The Build Lab is BU's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center. So they're like a super great resource for anyone who has a startup at BU, even Bentley. They have like a lot of mentors that can sort of help you with the pitches. I know we really relied on them a lot and still do to this day. And they have a bunch of different like programs for startups, one of which we're in is the Innovation Pathway. So that is like a 3-stage program where, you go to walk, run, and fly eventually. So now we're in fly, but back then, the walk pitch was really scary as well. But yeah, I think like grand total, you get $5,000 out of it, just like, to kick off your business, and a lot of mentorship.
Nice. Was there any like unique or pivotal moments for Popple while you were collaborating with the Build Lab?
Yeah, I would say it's so interesting actually, because we were the first people we talked to Popple about is like Ian Mashner from the Build Lab. So they've really been with us like the whole entire journey, and like Ian especially, and Tom and Sharan and all of these people have really like been providing mentorship for every like stage of the journey. Like we talked to them about our hospitality pitch. So eventually, like I'm jumping ahead, but we talked to them about Mass Challenge and about all of the beta testing we did and all of our like customer interviews and like about launching the app. And it's just like I feel like their mentorship has been valuable at like every stage of the business, which is like I think something really important in general for young entrepreneurs to know is that as most young entrepreneurs are first-time founders, but you don't know everything, and it's really important to be able to have people you can reach out to.
What would you say for both of you the biggest things you learned were as young entrepreneurs, like figure it all out? Like, yes, business student, but that does not mean you have it all figured out.
Yeah, no, it definitely does not mean I have it all figured out. Quite honestly, I feel like I learned most of my business knowledge not through school at all, but through Popple. I remember like just filling out those initial applications, like the written applications to different accelerated programs, and having no idea what half the questions were even asking. Like we were chat GPTing like so many of the terms that we didn't know. I feel like now I can like say all like the weird different startup terms like off the back of my hand, but back then I was like, this is not English. So that was just like, learning the intricacies behind like the whole like startup ecosystem and all like the business lingo and sort of how to, something that, in order to like figure that all out, mentors and like making connections were really crucial because like, we're first time entrepreneurs. We need all the help that we can get. Right. So we like created an extensive venue or mentor network. We'll get to the venue network later. Mentor network that taught us a ton, and we really like learned the importance of A, networking, and B, just relying on people with experience to give amazing advice.
Yeah, I mean, second, I totally agree with all of that, especially like the importance of networking. I don't think you're really taught networking in school at all. And like being thrown into the startup ecosystem, that's such an important skill to learn about how to like pitch yourself and be confident and be personable. I think that's a really important skill for any like first-time founder to learn. It's a really important skill for any first-time founder to learn. And probably something that, I mean, it sounds easy, but I feel like it's actually kind of difficult in practice. Yeah, I'd also say that, well, I actually learned, like, how to code and, like, I mean, I'm a computer science major, so I knew how to code, but how to code an app, like, because of Popple, and also learned about all sorts of other, like, product development things, like, how do you know when to push features, like, about, like, Scrum methodology, all of this stuff. So I think also being open and willing to, like, learn and Google and, like, all of that's super important skill for a first-time founder to have.
Learning as you go. Nice. So what were Popple's initial features that were on the app? Because you had mentioned how, like, the first version is not anything like how it is now. What was, like, Popple's base or starting point?
Yeah, well, I'd say that the starting point has been pretty consistent. We always started with this idea of, like, we wanted people to be able to get on the app, see a ton of events that excite them, be able to, like, filter based on their interests and things like that, and then also be able to see groups of students that are going and be able to see, like, what are the places that the most students are going, you know, where can I go to connect with people like me, and then be able to join those groups. I think what ended up changing a lot, or, like, this surprised us, honestly, is that we ended up changing kind of smaller features. It was like, okay, like, maybe you should be able to, like, repeat groups. Groups should be able to go to multiple events. Or, like, having, like, a really robust, like, notification system, or, like, a referral system to, like, refer your friends to different events and then get discounts. So I think that all of those, like, smaller things are also really important. And yeah, I mean, we as first-time, like, mobile app builders, we didn't think they would be important. But yeah.
The little things that count.
Definitely.
Anything you wanted to add to that, Remi?
I mean, I think that pretty much summed it up. I know we've had a lot of crazy ideas. I feel like Prianna and I, like, get talking and we get, like, way ahead of ourselves. We, like, get wrapped up in, like, the grandeur of it all. But yeah, we have, like, tons of ideas. Love Popple as is, but of course, as we, like, grow and learn, maybe we'll be seeing some fun new features. Who knows?
Lots more to come.
Well, I think that's a good segue. So as it stands now, what does Popple entail, like, in full, in terms of features and, like, I sign up for the app, what am I interacting with?
So you get on the app and you're able to see a ton of events and filter by things like interests and your location. It's really Eventbrite style at this point, where you can, like, click on the event and view some information about it. But really our competitive differentiators, you can join a group. So groups are kind of like anonymous affinity groups of other students that are going to that event. For example, like, it was just St. Patrick's Day this weekend, so we had a ton of bars and events like that on the app. And then users were able to click into, like, the Shamrock Shakedown or whatever, and then see a ton of lists of groups. And then a couple of the groups we had were, like, singles that were in the city. So if you were looking to meet other singles, that would be an awesome group to join. Or, like, homebodies that would, like, want to go home early was another group that we had. We had a group of, like, the boys that were drinking beer all night. I don't know. People have fun with it. People have a lot of fun with it, making groups. And the whole idea is that we just want to give you an avenue to meet people like you.
Right. That's awesome. Are there any other, like, tailored things within the app, like, when you're first signing up, that help you get placed in those groups or get recommended, per se?
Yeah, definitely. As soon as you log into the app, you, like, put all of your interests and a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
And then from there, we're working on a system where groups are recommended to you based on your interests. And also the app will kind of learn, like, what types of groups you like, and then we'll, like, recommend those to you. And that's a little bit also tailored or linked to the notification system I was talking about earlier, where we try to, like, ping you when we think that groups that you'll like are being posted. Because that's ultimately, like, what the app is about, is the events are just a vehicle, really, to help you, like, connect with people like you. Yeah.
So with Popple, like, being a people-focused app, per se, what is the target audience for Popple?
Our target audience right now is just college students. Because, yeah, it can be scary. You can move to a new place, a new city, new school, no friends, I guess, especially for freshmen. Really want to target the freshmen, but it's for everybody. Yeah, it can just be scary knowing no one, knowing nothing to do.
Right.
And even if it's, like, I don't know, halfway through your freshman year, for example, you don't know anything. Like, I feel like I still don't know, like, half the stuff that goes on in Boston.
That's life. Yeah,
Yeah, that's life. And like, who else would be interested in it? I know I have some like weird things I want to do that Prianna's not always up for. It would be nice to just like have that at my fingertips, like a group of people who'd want to do that. So I think it could definitely like be really, really like instrumental in sort of creating that college experience or like having it come more easily or like cohesively in freshman year. But yeah, just for college students as a whole.
Nice. So Popple's like, as it stands now, you'd mentioned Mass Challenge. What was doing Mass Challenge like?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So we applied to Mass Challenge, and it was kind of like a long shot because we were both the youngest founders in Mass Challenge this cohort, and we were also one of the youngest companies. We were only like operating for around like 4 months when we applied. But it was such an awesome experience. The judges like really believed in the idea. And I think it's really an idea that like is interesting because I feel like college students really buy into it because it's like, hell yeah, like I want to like have more fun things to do in the weekends. I want to meet new people. And then also like kind of the VCs and like other older entrepreneurs and stuff we've talked to also resonate with it because it's like, okay, we need to get students like off of their phones and like kind of into the real world and like not using so much technology. And so when we pitched for Mass Challenge, that was like just an awesome experience, like kind of feeling how the idea was resonating with even like older people, where we've mostly been talking to college students about it. And I think that was just like one of the greatest things about Mass Challenge is we were able to talk to people that were so experienced in the industry. Our pitching, like that pitching experience went really well, I would think. And we like got into the program. I remember like texting Remi when we got in, and you were in New York, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we were texting her, and she called me right after. We were like screaming on the phone to each other. We were so excited. And it was a lot of fun. It was just like, I mean, I think Mass Challenge is fun because it's like the program is a series of like events essentially. They put on tons of events at like restaurants and for you to like be able to network with other entrepreneurs like you and also network with their extended network of like VCs and mentors and things like that. We've met some of like the most amazing mentors through that program. And yeah, I feel like it was happening at a point where we were beta testing Popple a lot. So that was also, I think, the perfect time to be in Mass Challenge because we were able to get feedback on our various beta versions from our mentors and also get feedback on how to beta test an app, which is one of, I think, the most essential parts in building an app is being able to like test it and like fix what's not working.
Yes. Anything to add to that?
I'm just going to add one really minuscule thing because I feel like Prianna encompassed most of the business aspects. It was just fun in terms of, like, they held these ridiculous events that we could, like, broadcast Popple at, but also just, like, meet all these, like, really interesting founders and people who are just, like, in the Mass Challenge ecosystem. And it was also just, like, really glamorous. We were on, like, the 20th floor eating oysters, and I was like, whoa, like, where are we? Here we've gone.
Gotta love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I was around this point, Popple's a development for a couple months, close to a year. Had the team expanded at all by that point? No. Okay. When would you say the team did start to expand, or you recognized we need to expand it beyond just us two?
I think that was fall semester of our junior year, so this was like 6 months ago-ish. Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, it just got to be a ton of work. And, you know, with like the school year coming back, we couldn't just focus 24 hours a day on it like we had in summer. So we got our very first team member, Ben, shout out. He's now our business lead. He's just like the most enthusiastic person, and that really inspired us to expand our team even more because it was like, whoa, this person's awesome, and he's helping so much. So we sort of reached out to similar people like him who are like interested in entrepreneurship, have their own startups maybe, want to learn from working with Popple, and that sort of sparked like pretty rapid growth of our team.
Nice. How big is the Popple team now?
So it's like 10 people right now. So we have a software team that I lead and then user growth and business development to handle kind of like growing our users and also growing our venue partnerships because Popple is like a two-sided marketplace in that way where we need both a ton of users, then we also need venues like posting their events on the app for users to go to. So yeah, that's kind of like the overall structure.
Nice. And then has there been any other pitch competitions or anything in that realm that Popple's participated outside of the two major ones you'd mentioned?
Not pitch competitions, but I'd say we're really active kind of in the startup community, in the
Okay.
ecosystem. I was an MC at IdeaCon this fall, which was so much fun and a really great opportunity to like shout out Popple. I think we like doubled our users like at that event
Awesome.
alone.
I will add Halt.
Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb.
So there is another pitch competition. It was recent. I guess we've like already like it's not really in the Popple history quite yet. But yeah, Halt is this regional.
Okay, I can talk about Halt. So it's put on by Halt International Business School. It's a worldwide prize. So we have people competing from like Kenya and like Europe and India and like all over the world for $1 million. And it's put on by the Bill Clinton Foundation. He likes to call it the Nobel Prize for Students. And it's really about like making a social impact and about building an idea that makes a big impact. And we competed in the regional, for Boston, with a bunch of other BU teams, and we ended up winning. And so then we're going to the I don't know what they call it, like the regional or the national level, which is going to be in Portugal. So we're going to be flying out to Portugal this summer, which is going to be so
very
fun
exciting.
To pitch. And then after this is like the global national or like the global like finals, which will be in London for a couple weeks over the summer. So fingers crossed we make it there. But we're just like, was so much fun to pitch at. Our whole team was at the pitch. So that kind of brings back it was very recently and they were all cheering us on. And yeah, I don't know. At first, we didn't really think Popple would be a good fit for that competition, but it was really interesting how, again, with the mental health aspect. And I feel like, in general, like, I feel like we're really resonating, like, as, like, a Boston community, I guess, with this idea that, like, we really need to help the mental health of our students. And we need to, like, get them back into, like, the in-person world after, like, COVID. So Popple's a really great vehicle for that.
Definitely. To bring it back to the team, I had another question come up. What like specific roles are being fulfilled, or do you see that like needed to get filled once you started expanding the team? Because you're both overloaded with work.
I guess I'll talk about the software team quickly, and then you can. Software was like a big one, I think, because at the beginning of fall was when we had kind of finished our beta testing over the summer, and we were like, okay, now it's time to launch the app. Yeah. Launching an app is like a ton of work. There was like so much legal work that we had to do. We employed like the BU law students to help us with that. And there's just a ton of like even like bug fixes and like work like that. And I was like, okay, especially after the app launches, there's going to be even more software and even more bugs to fix. Like I need a team. So that was like the big trigger to be pulled for the software team. They're mainly working on like smaller bug fixes and stuff now, but we're hoping like version 2 of the app can be built by me and them. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and as for the user growth and business development teams, Prianna touched on this briefly earlier, the whole chicken and the egg where we need both venues and students. So user growth is all about guerrilla marketing, social media for like on campuses where we just like clown around and get people to download Popple. And then business development is more about sort of like researching the like market as a whole, how we can partner with these different venues, like what businesses need, and yeah, really like establishing these like long-term relationships with venues around Boston.
Could you speak more on what a relationship looks like with a business venue, or like how do you start it? What problems have you potentially run into?
Definitely. I think our biggest problem is sort of establishing legitimacy as like a new student brand because like, I don't know, you're walking into this like bar or something and they're like, why should I listen to you? So it just takes a lot of repetition, I'll say bothering repeatedly, but in a nice way, sort of where, you know, we just like chat with these people, get to know them, you know, sort of interview them, understand their struggles as a business, and then sort of swoop in with like, hey, like I've got a little solution for that whole turnout issue. Like, oh, your numbers aren't the same as before COVID. We can help out with that. So yeah, just sort of establishing trust with them like on on a personal level first, and then sort of collaborating with them on a few events. So that sort of looks like, we have it on Popple, we advertise it on their behalf, and then they encourage their sort of audience to RSVP through Popple and connect with people before the event. So, we help out with a few of those, and once they sort of fully understand the Popple value, we become like official partners that, they just like repeatedly use our platform.
And then is there any other strategies or tactics you're using for user growth that you hadn't mentioned already?
Yeah, definitely. We're doing a ton for user growth. Currently, we've made like 1 million different versions of flyers for like every type of person. Because, that's what Popple is for. Like people who like Flemish art, or people who are just partying all day, or people who just like love curling. I don't know. It's for everyone. So we were just making a slew of insane flyers to really hit every single type of person, spreading them, like printing like hundreds and hundreds, spreading them all over. And then as for guerrilla marketing, we're holding like a ton of like silly like campus events. So we're doing like a electric scooter wash, since everyone is like always on their scooters. What are we doing? We're doing like a little Easter egg hunt thing. And we're just like always on the street, donut for download type of thing. We're recreating that thing, the button, where we're trying to match people based on the button. Basically we sit two people down and they talk about their interests, until there's like a disagreement and they hit the button. But then we're making Popples after that. Okay. It's a whole shebang.
Nice.
We're just bothering people and obviously TikToking.
Okay, awesome. And then, so in terms of user growth, what would you say your active user base is right now?
Yeah, so through our beta testing and just like pre-launch bothering people, as Remi put it, we have 500 users right now.
Okay.
We have around 5 to 10% daily active or weekly active user rate. Which is pretty good. I'd say 10% is the goal, and like jumping above 10% is like our goal.
Right.
And so yeah, that's kind of like the numbers, like analytics side of that. One of the things that, to add on to what Remi is saying, is one of the things we've been looking at is really trying to get like analytical with all of our guerrilla marketing too. Like something that I'm doing is like for each of the flyers that Remi's making, I'm gonna like make the link like point to, or it'll like tell us which one gets the most scans. Yep. So getting like really like numerical and analytical with the marketing, I think is important, especially when you're like guerrilla marketing and like doing like B2C marketing.
Well, the numbers tell you what works, so 100% with that. And I guess like kind of as we move into future stuff that Popple's looking to do, where are you looking in terms of like user growth in the next year, or like expanding to a different city potentially? What does that look like in terms of Popple's future goals?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say this summer we're planning on rolling out our like revenue model. So we'll start selling tickets to the platform through our user base. So trying to grow our users through like guerrilla marketing techniques and stuff until then. And then when we roll out ticketing, we're going to be able to like prove out our revenue model. I keep doing that. Prove out our revenue model. And yeah, and then going into the next year after proving out our revenue model, we want to move to other cities. Like New York is a big one.
Right.
And other cities like in the Northeast.
Do you have any ideas yet for what that would look like when you're initially establishing yourself in a new city? I feel like that's a very difficult and daunting task.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what we're currently doing in Boston is getting different brand ambassadors at schools to sort of promote it on their own campuses, because we cannot be everywhere. Usually we're on BU's campus, So we're establishing relationships with students who are similarly passionate about the mission of Popple, to sort of like promote it on their own campuses. So when we're expanding into new cities, I think we're going to do it pretty much the same way, get brand ambassadors. We'll probably need more at those schools since we don't have a presence there yet. Have them do a bunch of, the same marketing methods that we've done, and establish partnerships with venues over there. And hopefully the cycle just repeats itself and it does well there too.
It's awesome. So you mentioned your revenue model. What does that look like more in depth for a two-sided marketplace like Popple?
Yeah, so the revenue model is a tricky one because right now we're planning on selling tickets through the app. But that is definitely like directly competing with Eventbrite, which is like a massive ticketing platform already that people use. But sort of our thinking and something that we've like refined through like all of our mentors and like all the pitches and stuff we've done is that we want to like first build a wedge in Eventbrite's market, like through the whole like groups feature, and then start doing ticketing, and kind of like with that wedge we'll be able to like take a portion of the ticketing market. So that's kind of our goal. We're also like trying to prove out other revenue models, like looking at something like selling a premium subscription to event venues, perhaps. Still kind of proving that out. But yeah, definitely revenue is one of the tough things with a social media app.
Gotcha. And then kind of transitioning from revenue in terms of scaling, what would that look like for Popple?
I think a huge part of scaling with this two-sided marketplace is just, establishing like brand reputation and brand trust, because right now a huge part of our like marketing is partnering with these venues and these events, and that is something that's very hands-on, and it takes a lot of keeping up with all these relationships to have our venue network, which is something that we definitely plan to continue doing. We always want to be very accessible, but just sort of like Eventbrite, if I were holding an event and I didn't know about Popple, I would just automatically go to Eventbrite. So that is sort of the reputation we are trying to establish with venues, so we can really have them trust like that we will increase their turnout, and then students will be on the app wanting to go to these venues. And then on the student side of things, like I said, like sort of virality, just like really, really we're focusing on being an app that's worth talking about, and like that's sort of the brand image that we're making, like fun, revolutionary, like really just something that college kids will download.
Have you spoke with any VCs yet, or like private equity or anything like that?
Yes, we actually met a lot of them during Mass Challenge.
Okay.
And definitely like keep meeting them at all of these like networking events and like post Mass Challenge events. I think that it was a lot of really good practice pitching to a VC and like what they're interested in, what they look for. But I think that overall VCs have really resonated with our core message about like improving students' mental health. That's something that they really resonate with, and making sure students are connecting with people like them. And definitely, I think that they really see the viral potential of an app like this. So yeah, definitely kind of in discussions.
Awesome. This is a wild question. Any thoughts on like international? Have you even dabbled in that yet, or?
Oh, well, we were forcefully told by our lawyers that there'd be heavy changes in the privacy policy if we tried to go international. So that's like years in the future. But one day I'd love to be overseas.
No,
Awesome.
yeah, the GDPR is like getting us like on that one. But yeah, definitely one day.
Okay, nice. We've mentioned some short-term goals. In terms of longer-term goals that you envision for Popple, whether it's like a couple years from now, 5 years, 10 years, like what do you want the final product of Popple to really look like?
Like a Popple skyscraper.
World domination.
In terms of the product, Remi and I have been throwing around a lot of ideas. I think really the goal for Popple, and this is sort of an intangible goal, but we want it to be the place where college students can go and know where other students are going, It's like every BU student that's like into sports is going to be like at this bar now, and we feel like there's not really a platform for that yet. We feel like there's a lot of guesswork and word of mouth involved. So, and also bringing in more AI elements into the app too, being able to like have more and more of that like matching you based on your interests and matching with people that the app knows that you'll connect with. I think those are two threads. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, in terms of just growth as a whole, we would like to have a presence at like most, I mean, I don't know, depends how many years we're talking here, but like at every college campus, we would like to have at least a presence and, obviously continue growing from there. But yeah, sort of just really banking on like virality, because I feel like that is huge among college students. Like Be Real, like Yik Yak just expanded rapidly. So I think that's sort of what we're going for. So hopefully the number of years is not that many.
Right. That's really exciting. As we near the end of the episode today, is there anything you'd like to let the audience know about Popple and where they can find Popple?
Definitely. Well, all of you should download Popple on the App Store, and you can also find us at poppleapp.com and make a ton of new friends.
Nice.
Also, the socials, popple.boss, BOS, on both TikTok and Instagram. Be there, be square.
And I think maybe one last shout out to our really awesome team. I can't list all of your names here, but you are all very loved. And yeah, thank you so much for helping us get here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.